Okay, let's start. So our brand new class is about Java. This is the first lecture of Java. So we'll start from the very scratch. The first, what is Java? You can see, I will go through most of the things, as per our note, but I will explain you also, I will use some example. So first, what is Java? Java is a high-level language. It's a third-generation language. High-level language means it's a previously before the Java, we know there's some of the other languages like C, C++. Those are low-level language. So it means the earlier version of the language comes after the language or computer invented. Those are low level, and the time passes, and they develop more high level language. High level language, it's more easier than low level in terms of syntax. Syntax is like a coding, right? So like if you want to do the same task like a 1 plus 1, say example 2, some addition, if you want to do this addition in some sort of a low level language like C or C++, it will be more line than in a high level language like a Java, Python. So that's why that's the concept of the high level language. High level language is less syntax, much easier, less complex. Okay, so Java is one of the high level language, or you can say third generation language. It's a platform independent language. It's a platform independent. It means it works with any operating systems. As I explained a little bit last class, like it works with the Mac, Windows, Linux, any operating system. It works because based on the different operating system, Java has its own virtual environment machine. When you install the Java, that's one of the part. It's called JVM. JVM is a Java virtual machine, and that virtual machine is compatible with the different operating system. So that's why we have a different Java executable file when you download, that's based on the operating system. So that virtual machine, when you install any Java for Windows, it has a separate file than the Linux, because it has a separate virtual machine that only works with the Windows machine. So we don't have to understand those things in details, but that's a way it makes the Java as a platform independent language. Next is work on principle of object oriented. Object oriented is a concept. Okay, in a Java, I mean, you will not understand now, and I'm not going to explain too much details about the object oriented. Eventually, when we'll go to object oriented some component, I will explain. Object oriented is a language. You can say it's a specialty of a language. It's very special component. There's a few characters. So there's a few specific it's activities that some of the language they can do. There's an example. It's called some of the components called like inheritance, one of the object oriented component. So there's a few other characteristics of a language. If they are able to follow those characteristics, that language is called object oriented. In that terms, Java, it's fully object oriented. C++ is a fully object oriented language. Even Python is an object oriented language. We'll go through all those when we'll go to Java core function, the core characteristics. Then we'll go each and every, like encapsulation, then it's a Java, it's an inheritance. Those are the part of object oriented, and each and every concept has some specific benefits, so those are the Java, and it follows all those characteristics, all those specialist formula that Java can do and follow. So that's why it's a Java. It's called object oriented language. Let's see some of very simple video that we can. Okay, so Java video 1, get some little bit of idea. Okay, let me minimize this window. Let's come in here. And let me know if you can't hear. You can hear, right? It's because I was talking. Okay, let me see. I'm sorry? You can't hear? Oh, okay. Why it's not? Let me see. Oh, default video. Okay, maybe that's the reason. Just give me a sec. What happened? Okay, here Microsoft. Okay, high definition audio. Speaker off. Microphone. Speaker. Can you see if you can hear now? Just let me play it again. And Can you make it bigger, please? Oh. So as far we have seen the two videos, okay, we'll try to make it a little bit, break it down and see what does it mean. So in our first videos, we have heard about like Java file, class file, bytecode, and then Java virtual machine. Those those are the keyword we have heard. What does it mean actually? So Java is divided into three parts. It's one is called the Java compiler, Java interpreter, and another one is called the JVM. So what those are the main part of the Java software when you download the Java software. So what's really happened behind the scene when you write your code any editor like Eclipse or IntelliJ, and then we saw this yesterday, we write a simple code, hello world, and then we print it, right? So how really it works. So when you write a code in any editor and then you compile it, I mean it's run, it means compile. Okay, you compile or execute it. When I say run, execute, it's everything is same. In a programming language, it's also called compile it. Compile it. So there is a part in Java, it's called compiler. So remember this, when you download Java, we had a two files we saw. It's one is JDK, another one we saw JRE. Remember the yesterday when you download, there was a two-part icon from, right? So JDK is called Java Development Kits. It has Java Development Kits. In this file, it has some other necessary kits that help you to execute your file. When you write your code, it's need to be executed, right? When you run it, it means it's executed. So it has one of the file, it's called, or component is called compiler. The compiler, execute your or run your code. And it has another part, it's called Java interpreter. So interpreter, compiler, all those are part of JDK. What's really happened? So when you write a code, simple write a code, let me show you. When you simple write a code like this, and then we say print it, or if you run it, let me run it. If I right click, you can run lot of different ways. Right click, run as. My machine is pretty slow. Run as Java application. So when I run it, in a compiler behind the scene, compiler, it's execute. Compiler job is to run this code, and then you can see we see the output here. It's called console. Console is the part where it shows your output or display. So this file, you can see when you write any Java code in your editor, you give a name, say my first class, so you give a name. And then this file, it's saved with the extension is called .java. So when you write a code and you save it, before you run it, you have to save it, and all of the files, you can see there's lots of files over here. It's written in Java, and all the file extension will be dot, whatever the name you give, and it will be dot extension Java. So when you write a code in your editor, this file it's saved as a dot Java. It means it will be saved. We can find in my computer where I saved this file, all those files, and you will see it will be file. It is just like a text file, but it has an extension with .java. Then you can easily understand this file is a part of Java code. But our computer, they don't understand this kind of things. This language, this code, they don't understand it. So what we're trying to say. So that's the compiler and interpreter. It comes to the picture when need to execute any code in Java code. So when you save a .java file, our compiler, these guys, interpret, change those code to a bytecode. There is a format of a code saving. It's called bytecode. This guy, so compiler's job, they change this file to a bytecode and save this file. It's a dot class. So whatever name, say my first class dot java, that's my file, and when I run it, it's automatically behind the scene. Compiler, they change all the code, our written code, to bytecode. This is a format of saving. Bytecode is nothing, just 101010. Those are the number, because those are the number your machine, your CPU can understand. Our CPU can only understand, probably you have heard or know before, like they only can understand all of the instruction which is written by bytecode, which is like 100110, those things. So compiler, Java compiler, it's convert those our language, the code, to bytecode, and it's saved in a different format of file. It's called .class file. So the name would be same, but the extension will be changed from Java to .class file. And then our this Java interpreter, it comes to the picture. What he does after it's saved on convert to the bytecode, Java interpreter, this guys is save your file from .java to .class file, and it sent the instruction or all the lines to the JVM, Java virtual machine. When you install the Java, this is another software. It's download with our file, and it's work with our CPU. So every CPU based on our operating system, it has a different JVM file. So JVM is a Java virtual machine. That's another it's another environment that works with our CPU, based on our CPU. That's why we have a different JVM. So JVM gets the instruction as a bytecode format, and it says, an interpreter, it says, okay, do the job as per the bytecode. So after the JVM, it's received the instruction, it send the same instruction to our CPU, like our Intel based on our Windows operating system or different operating system, and CPU do the job as per the JVM is saying. So it's a very vital information. It's a play role. Each and every one is playing role. And after that, CPU do the job, and it's return the result the same way, get back to and come to our over here in console, and we can see the result. Okay, that's usually the things is happen. You can say when we compile the source file, which is a .java file, that's the actual file, it convert to .class file. .class file is nothing, it's a bytecode. Okay, so that's the real things pretty much is happen behind the scene. When you run any code, and after we get the output from the machine. So who's the three person? It's a Java compiler and interpreter. It does the job. it's convert your .java file to bytecode, and it changed to the .class file, and then it also send the the message to the instruction to the JVM, and JVM received the instruction and it passed to the our CPU, and it says to do the job as per the instruction, and our CPU do the job, and it's return the result the same way. Okay, that's so here is one of the important things. It's a .class file. So whatever we do in Java file, it have to be convert. So as I was saying, so that's what happens. So when you compile the file, when you compile a Java compiler is execute the file or compile it, and interpreter it's convert the file to .class file. So everything in Java, it's a class. So you have to find without any error, if you need to convert execute our file, the .java file, it have to be convert .class file, which is a bytecode, right? So now it comes to our mind, what is class? And there's two very important topics, very basic fundamental things, but we have to understand very clearly. Two things is a Java class, Java object. Since Java is object oriented language, so object, the keyword is very important, and also to understand the class. So let's get to understand about Java class. So who has a little bit of idea about Java? Mushir, you, right? Okay, anyone else? Rajib? Do you have any experience, or have you learned a little bit even a Java before? A little bit. So you have a basic, right? Okay, I think Asma Babi, you don't have, you never learned this Java, right? Okay, that's fine. So let's start from the very beginning. So we'll try to make it very simple. What is class? But try to get to understand. Those are the very fundamental basic concept that you have to make sure that you are very clear about it. So Java class. So what is class? A class can be defined as a template or blueprint that describe the behavior or state of its object and its type support. Let me go through it, then I will explain you. The class is a blueprint, while objects are actual object existing in the real world. So it's a class. It's a very hypothetical. It's a theoretical things. It is a template, you can say. Template in that sense. Template, it means very standard format. Say example, when a Toyota or any car company, say Tesla, they make their different model. So Toyota, they make their different model. They first of all they design a template, like how would be the architecture design for any specific model. First they create a template, like it's very standard, with a very standard architecture design of that Toyota car would be. So template is it's like it's a theoretical stuff. It's an architectural design, or you can say is a blueprint where it's describe what would be the behavior of the car. What would be the different different other part of the car, right? What would be the the color, different types of color would be for the car, for all Toyota model, not any specific model, since this is a very standard blueprint or design for Toyota car. So it's a very standard format. It says okay, this 10 different colors would be all of the models will be between 10 different colors. That's different type of sounds. All of our different model would be different sounds, like beeping sounds, but they make it very specific. And then what would be the engine type? Like, doesn't matter what our model, but our engine would be this. So from any one of them we'll choose for a specific model. So template is overall a architectural design or blueprint that's explain all of your, so all the different model of the car, those are the actual object. An object, it means that's a real thing. You can see, it's a visible thing you can see in a real life. So template is just very, it's a theoretical stuff. It's an architectural design where the object is the real thing. Like car is an object of a like say example, what's called the Corolla, or any other cars of Toyota. Those are the real thing. Those are the object of a car template for of a car class. If you assume that Toyota car is a one class, and its object would be like sorry, its object would be say Corolla. Its object would be another model of the other model of the the Toyota car, because its object is the real thing, which is made, which is already made from the following the class architecture, the template of the class. And so when its object is built, it's, you can say it's a copy or clone from your class, because the whatever the object's behavior, the color, the characteristics, it comes based on their classes, specific their classes template. Because in template it specifically says what would be the behavior of the object, what would be the color of the object, what would be the other characteristics of the object, and based on those information from the template they create different object. Is that a little bit clear? So example, you can see animal. If I say animal is a class, so this is very theoretical stuff. In this animal class, all the animals would be the object. So in this class, they will say, okay, different object and different. So all the different object means a different animal. So all the different sound, the animal's behavior, animal color, it is going to be part of a animal class. So specifically one of the object of animal class could be dog, could be bear, could be deer. Those are the different object. So dog, bear, cats, those are the actual thing you can see. So those are the object, and every object they have their own behavior, and those behavior is already listed. You will see this already listed in animal class. So what type of sound a dog can be do, what type of different colors a dog can be, what's the behavior of the dog. So you can see like the behavior of a dog. You can see this is the object. When you talk about object over here, the dog's behavior can be different type of sounds. Dog could be like wagging sounds or barking sounds. So those are the different character of a dog, which is already enlisted in a animal class. So we can on the other hand, we can say an object is an instance of a class, means you are copying or cloning of that class. So doesn't matter what object, as long as your object is a part of your class, you can say it's a clone. It's not 100%, but it's whatever the object. Say it's a dog. Dog is one object of animal class. So all the information, all the behavior, all the characteristics of a dog, it's already enlisted in animal class. So this dog is a clone. It's a totally clone, or copying from an animal class. So object is a clone or copy of a class, you can say. Make sense? So please try to understand it. It's this is yep. Yeah, every, doesn't matter what animal it is, all the animals are part as an object of a animal class. It could be the car. Yeah, yeah, definitely there is always a difference. As I said, it's a class is a template. There is nothing. It's Yes, it is the big part. It is like it is like theoretically, it's like a design. Class is not nothing real. Class is not real. Class is, you are making a template. That's why it's called template or blueprint. Template is like, you design something. It's like a pattern. Template is like a pattern. So when the car company, they build a car, before they start to build a car, they make a template of that car. So the template, it means it's all the different behavior characteristics it going to be mentioned on that template, and based on the template they create the car. So similarly, when you talk about the animals, so since we have all different types of animals, so we can make a animal class where we have all different types of object, and every object, so whatever the behavior, it should be enlisted on the class. So class is a theoretical thing. Class is a template. It's not real. It doesn't exist in real world. But object, it's the real thing. You can see it. It has some own, since it's an object, every object, it has its own individual behavior, all those things. But it's a class, it's a combination of different types of objects behavior. It's like a written statement. Is that clear now? So when we say class, a class can have lots of object. Class is, when you say class is a combination of object. But when you say object is a real thing, and it has its own behavior, characteristics, all those things, and you can see the object. It's a real thing. Okay, but that object is a part of the class. So class is a bigger thing, and object is a subset of your class. So you can say clone of your class. It means in that sense, whatever even it's one individual object, it comes from a class, but it's all these objects, one object, it's the fully into and explained in your class. So this object, you can say the copy of your class, not a full copy, but because it's a class, is a combination of lots of other objects up there. But even if it's one object, you are making separate. That object, all information, it comes from the class. So that's why in that sense it says it's a copy from your class. It's a clone of your class. Is that clear now? Let's talk another example. So students, we can say students is a class, and what would be the object? Different student, actual different students will be the object, right? Student class, the whole student is a class, and all the individual student would be the object, and some different parameter of the object. What would be the, like in a animal, we talk like a dog, it has its behavior, color, all those things. So for a student, what would be? The student will have a name. Student can have a roll number. Student can have a section. So we can say the object 1, the example, the John, roll number, section. Object 2, Jackson, roll number, section. So those are the different. Individual student is an object of a student class. Is that makes more clear? So here student class is a template, we can say, or blueprint, where all the students is a part of that class, and an individual student is an object, where every object, they have their own name, their number, roll number, and their section too. Clear? Okay. So now Java is all about class and object. So now we have, theoretically we understand what is class and what is object. Now in a Java, we have to, so when you are going to write a code, it have to be part of a class, since because everything is a part of class. It's like all the codes, whatever we do, right? It's whatever we have an object, all object is a part of class. So the class is the bigger thing. So none of the code would be without a class. It have to be part of one class. So whenever we do, you remember yesterday we try to print hello world. So whatever we want to do, first we have to create a class. All the codes have to be part of a class. We give a class name. You can see there is a keyword before a name. It's use class. So this is so it means my first class, this is a class name, and all the code inside over here, it's a object. Clear? So let's see that so since we have to be, all of our code have to be part of a part of class. It could be anything. So class, you can give a name, whatever the name you give, but it have to be part of class. So how are we going to define a class? How are we going to write a class? This is the declaration. A class is declared by using a keyword class. So you have to use a keyword class. This word have to be, yeah. Well, first of all, we will create a class, and inside a class, to create object, you can, there is a different way you can create an object. Object, like any function can be object. We'll talk about function or method. What is function or method? Or you, yeah, exactly. If you now compare with that example with this example, here is my first class. This is a class. Okay, I use a keyword with the class, and inside this class, we have to now say, assume that this is your car, the car class. Now your different object would be like different models, say Toyota, right? So here is the next line I wrote. It's called method or function. You can see, you will understand later on. This is I give a name. This is a very common method. It's called main method. It's a main function or method. Okay, this is one of the object of this first my first class, this class. And inside this class, there is a bracket, opening bracket and closing bracket. Between this bracket, I put some behavior. What is the behavior? I said, okay, in this main method, I want to say something. This will print in my console. I can do whatever I want inside. This is a body of this function. So you can say this is a main. A main is a object of this class, and inside there is a bracket, and in between this bracket, I can write all the method, all the behavior, characteristics, whatever I want. So compared to the car, this is not a car function. This is a different function. It's just something I want to just print. I can write a lot more line over here. All the lines would be, a part would be considered as a different behavior character of this main method, of this main object. And then, it will do the job after I run as per I instruct inside this over here. Is that a make sense? Is that a understand? Okay, let's go back to here. So first we have to know how to create a class. So to create a class, as I said, we have to use a keyword called class. We have to use called class. Then we have to give a name. Whatever the name it makes sense. So tree, car, animal, as I said, or students, whatever you say. And with this, there is another keyword that we need to use. It's called public. Why is a public? Public, it means sorry, this is a very weird color. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So public is a keyword, another keyword in a programming language. Probably you will heard, you will heard very frequently the public, private. Public, it means it's open for everyone, anybody. There is no secrecy. So it's not a private, it's a public. Your class would be always public, so that anybody can see this class. Okay, so this is called access modifier. Access modifier, like it's give you the permission, like how permitted your class is, that any, it has any secrecy, is that, or is it open for everyone. This is the status, you can say this is a status. So you give a name, and then before that you will say this is a class, and then before that you will say your access modifier, or this the status of that class. Usually class is always public, because public in the class is open for everyone. If it's not open, if you put restriction, so maybe the object, it needs to be part of this class, is not able to be part of this class. So the class is always public. Okay, so this is the keyword. We'll understand more about the access modifier, like public, private, on later on. But just for now, just understand that you have a class. To create a class, you have to use the keyword class, and then you give a name, and then also you use the access modifier, which is called public, and then opening bracket and closing bracket. And then inside the opening bracket, closing bracket, you can write whatever. You can write so many functions, so many objects. This is a final, you can say parent opening bracket and parent closing bracket. And then inside this there will be lot more object. All the object will be here, and every object will have their own behavior or characteristics or code. Say if you see over here, so I created my class name, and then the class keyword, and this is a public keyword, access modifier. This is a opening bracket, this is the parent opening bracket, and this is the closing opening bracket. For this, every opening bracket there will be closing bracket. Okay, for this, here is the closing bracket. And then inside this, I made one method or one object. I can make multiple. I can make lot more similar type of lot more method. Okay, I can, but your method have to be different name. One method, there is a one dog, there is a dog is object. You can't say there is another dog. All the dog would be part of one dog object. So you have to create you have to give a different name. So you can say different name, different function, and then your every function, they will have their, or object will have their own opening bracket and closing bracket, and between this opening and closing bracket they will have their own code. Okay, make sense? Clear, guys? Yep. So that's the creating a object, creating a class. Let's talk about create object. So when you create a object, okay, so as I said, an object is when I'm going to create an object of a class, we have to use a keyword is called new. So here is the thing. So we are creating, say example, we have a dog class. So now think about dog itself a class. Okay, so now inside a dog there will be now a specific dog. So your object of a dog class would be like the say a different type of dog, right? We know it's a different type of, it means a different version of dog, like bulldog. So it's a different there is a lots of dog, Germany, the shepherd, there's a lots of different. So those are the object of a dog class. So when you create an object, of a from a class, you can see here we in a class we have to use a class word, right? The keyword. When you create an object from a class, you don't know a specific what's called a specific object of that class. So assume that you have a dog class, but inside the dog you don't know all different type of dogs, the object of the dog class. So you can make a general, you can make a very general. To make a general object, it's you use a keyword, it's called new, and then you give a name of the same class name. This is very general object of the same class. Okay, so this is very general. You don't know very specific object, any specific object you don't know of a dog class. That time you create a new object if you want. Since it's an object, again, just remember that object is a clone. Object is a clone of your class, right? The object is a clone or copy of your class, because there is no object that would be out of the class information. So there will be out of the class and title. So in other words, we can say the object is a clone of your class. So if it's a clone, if you want to make it very general object of a class, that time you how are you gonna declare it? How are you gonna make it? You are going to use a keyword. This is a keyword. When I say keyword, those are the word are reserved in Java. It's a reserved word, and they use for a specific reason. So the one of the reserved word is called new. New is a very reserved word that help you to create an object, a clone of of your of your class that makes a object by the same name. So you will write new, then you give the same name if your class like a dog, and then you put a bracket or something like this, and then you put a semicolon. Here is one more thing. It's a Java is two things you have to remember. Java is case sensitive. In case sensitive, it means you give a name. Say you give a name, a class name tree, and you write your class name tree is T is uppercase. And if you want to use the same class, it has a lots of object inside. So you want to use this class somewhere else. You want to call this guy somewhere else. So you have to exactly write the same way you created at the beginning, at the first time. If you call this, you mean this, or you want to call this class, but you wrote T is lowercase, is not gonna be able to recognize that you are calling this the same class you created before with that T uppercase. Is not going to be able to recognize it, and it will give you error. It will say, okay, I don't know any tree class you are saying with the lowercase t. So it means Java is case sensitive. When you write something, create something at the beginning, if you want to reuse the same class or object later on, you have to write exactly the same way. If you write at the beginning lowercase, do the same way. Write the same way. So similarly, every end of statement Java, you will have to put some semicolon. It's end of statement. It means, let me show you. End of statement, it means when you write, say example, you create a main function. One function or method is you give a name, is main, and there is an opening bracket and it's a closing bracket. So opening and closing brackets, so all the code is going to be part of this main function. Okay, it's going to be direct part of this function. And so this is your complete line. When you end of your complete line, one complete line, then you put semicolon. Say if I don't put semicolon, you will see there is an error. It comes and it will say syntax error, and it will tell you what something is missing. Insert in a colon to complete the block statement. So you have to then understand there is a colon was missing. Okay, so you will get used to more and more. At the end, 12, yeah, there's a line number 12. Yeah. Yes, every opening bracket there will be closing bracket. I'm not sure that what do you mean it's not finished. Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand what do you mean with finish. Yes, it will go. As many as function or object you wanna add, you can add. But it's finished. It's finished. Wherever when is you have a end close. I mean, ending bracket. Parenthesis. Uh, well, for the bracket, no. For the bracket is no. That's why bracket is, it means this is opening bracket and closing bracket, and after the closing bracket there will be nothing. You can't put anything over here. You will not put anything. No, you don't need necessary. You're not necessary put the semicolon after the bracket. It's not necessary. But exactly, this is, so you can remove it like this. So okay, at the beginning you create a class, give a name with a keyword, and you make it public. And then the first thing you have to do, do a opening bracket, create opening bracket, and with a closing bracket. Now comes to the next line. Now you can do whatever you want, right? You can make a another function or a object. You can say, you can write more function, more object, as long as many as you want. Everything is going to be part of this class. So you can see when you select this one, it's automatically, it means this is the opening and this is the closing. If you say, if I remove this, it will give you error. It will say, here you can see the syntax error. It's it's saying insert this closing bracket to complete your class body. So it means your class body is not complete. It's an open class. You have to need a closing bracket to make it complete your class, and then whatever you think you put it inside the here. So no, doesn't matter. Yeah, you have to write, all the codes have to be between this opening and closing bracket. That's your class, because an object cannot be without a class, right? So your object is a part of your class. So if you want to write any object, it have to be part of your class. Yes, exactly. Okay, so to create an object, okay, so we'll see for a specific class we're going to create an object that time, like it's a general object of that specific class. Like dog class, you don't know a specific name of the object of the dog class. That time you can make a general object of that class. That time you are going to use a new keyword and the same name of your class, like a dog, and then use this bracket and semicolon. This will say you created one dog object of a dog class. Okay, so new keyword is important. That just remember to create an object of the same class. Again, I'm saying the same class, very general, like you don't know the name of the object specifically, then you make a general object by the name of your class, and then you have to use a new keyword. Okay, so you wanna take a break, maybe, everyone? Oh, okay. How long we have? Oh, no worries. I mean, we can. So now, let's start the new topic. It's a Java variables. Okay, this is the. I mean, it's this class. It's the next couple of classes. It's going to be all basics. So we know a little bit about a class. Now we know a little bit about a object. how to define, how to create a class and define an object. Now, Java variables. Java variables, it means it's allocated by some space in Java memory. So example, say here, so when you write something like hello world or something, it stores some memory in your Java. Remember this, when you run this file, it's converted to the code file, byte file, and then it's the instruction sent to the Java memory, right? JVM, or it's called a heap also. Some people they say heap. Java heap, it means nothing, it's just a memory. So it's store some memory to save this word, right? Everything, when you say something, we store something. When I store something, we write the code. It's instead of this code, it's allocated some memory in Java heap, and it's stored those things. So to store those things, Java gives some name. So example, you want to add 2 and 3. Let's see here. Say you want to add 2 plus 3. Okay, so and also you want to see the result of 2 plus 3. And in a Java, how is going to work? So 2 is a data. This is a data or value, right? And 3 is a data, it's a value. And those are the operator, the plus, minus, those are the operator, like arithmetic operator to make it addition, subtract or multiplication. Those are the operator. It has their similar, same meanings, like we know the plus operator does a plus, minus operator does a minus. So but this 2, this is a data, so the information. So what I have to do when you write a code, you want to do simple add, addition in Java. This information, this data, we have to we can say this way. First of all, this 2 and 3 we have to save in Java memory. To save any data, any information in Java, we have to give a saved by a name. So here is say example, this is just assume that this is a Java memory or JVM or heap. And here when I declare the 2, I write a code for 2. I say 2 plus 3, it will allocated a little bit of space in heap for 2. It will allocated a little bit of space for this plus sign, and also there will be 3. There will be a little bit of space or will be allocated in Java memory. And every allocation for specifically the data or information, it have to be by a name. Every allocation will have to be by name. Say A, it could be A, it could be B, it's up to you. I say it's B. And the memory, this specific allocation, it will have its own unique address. Okay, so when I say, so that's why any data we want to save, it's better to put in a variable. This variable, it means just a name. It's a name. You can say anything, A, B, C, D, and you put equal sign. It means you are putting some data, assigning some data to this variable. So example 2. You say A equals to 2. It means you are saying, 2 data, 2 variable information stored in A memory. So there will be, your 2 would be stored in somewhere in JVM. That specific allocated space, it's known because we don't know what's the place. It's Java, it's automatically find out the space, and that is space. To understand that space, we give a name A. So A is a allocated memory or a space in JVM where it's to get assigned or to store. Okay, and similarly, if we say Yes, we need to, I mean, usually we put the name when you try to store any data or any information. Okay, specific any information we want to store any specific information, specifically data. We put those one, which that's why you call plus sign. Plus, it means the data is going to assign specifically a it means everywhere. Then we are going to use a. It means in that specific class, say this is a class math. I'm just giving a name, and here this opening bracket, closing bracket, I'm declaring in this specific class. I'm saying, okay, there is a 2, I'm putting on a. It means in this class, so whatever times we are going to use is going to be a, it means 2. Okay, and b is going to be, say, 3, and there is a semicolon. So it means a is nothing, is 2. It means a. In fact, in a, this is like address, location in JVM. Okay, a address there is a 2, and the b address there is a 3. So everywhere over here in this class we are going to use a, b. It will always treat a means 2, b means 3. So if I say z another or z, and I say a plus b, it will be 2 plus 3, it will be 5. It will automatically, so there will be somewhere here 5, and it will be z. Okay, or a plus b inside. And then if you inside this, if you still just make sure, just understand everything in between this bracket. And then if I said system, I'm putting in short form. S means system dot out dot println to print. If I say system dot out dot println z, then it will be, and if I run it, it will supposed to print 5, but it will give you error. The reason why, so this is called variable name. Just it's a name. So it's called, in a programming language, it's called variable name. Variable name. This is called variable name. When you assign any value or any data to a specific variable, a specific name, that's called variable name. Okay, and when you declare any variable in a language, specifically Java, specifically in Java, you have to put the variable type. That's called data type. Variable type is nothing, it's data type. This is a data, this is value, or you can say data. So this is a data. When you want to assign or save any data to a variable or to a name, that's called variable, and this value is called data. And you have to use this assign sign, equal sign. It means assign. You are putting this one to a. So when you declare a variable, your variable always comes with a data type or variable type. Variable type, it means what type of data you are storing in a. You have to put the type of the variable. So just try to understand that. So when you declare a variable, your variable can be empty. First of all, your variable can be nothing. There's just empty variable. You will put some value on later on, assign some value later on, or you can directly declare some value to a variable. So when you declare a variable, you can assign some value, or it could be just empty, say a, nothing, semicolon, nothing. It means this a, you're saying, okay, give me some space in Java memory with the a address, and the space would be empty. There's nothing, there will be no data, but I will assign some data later on. That means this. So this is called declaring. So you can declare any variable as an empty or any specific value. It's up to you. But as soon as you declare any variable, you have to declare the variable type. What type of variable is that? The type of variable depends on what type of data you are going to store. Just again, type of variable, it depends what type of data you are going to store. Is that a number or is that a decimal? So type of data, it could be 2, 3 is a number, it could be 2.35, those are decimal, right? So it could be different type of data. So your variable type, you have to declare as soon as you declare a variable, you have to say the variable type. What type of variable? And type of variable, it depends on the type of data you are going to store. So in programming language, the type of variable, there is a keyword, there's a reserved keyword to understand the type of variable. And that type of variable, it depends on the data type. The data type could be different type in programming language. Okay, to understand different type of data type, you can say there is a two types of variable. One is called primitive variable, another one is called reference variable. Let's talk about primitive variables, then you will understand. Primitive variables, all the basic types of variable are known as primitive variable. What does it mean, basic type? There is some reserve, the basic type of data, it's already created. The number is not fixed, number is up to you, but the type of the data, it's already reserved in programming language, in Java, to understand the type of the data. So your variable is nothing, is name, right? Your variable type depends on as I said, depends on the type of the data. So what type of data could be? Your data could be, it's called int, is a short form, it's called integer. Your variable data of a variable could be integer, could be boolean, could be character, could be string, could be float, could be long, could be double. Let's see some example. What does it mean, all those things? Here, so integer in short form, it's a int. It means any number started from 0 to 9, that's called integer. So if you say I want to store 1 2 3 4 5, that's just a number. So any number 0 to 9, it's called integer. So you put this number and you want to assign a variable, say a or I, so you put equal sign and then I, and so now since this is just strict number, it's called int, integer. So you have to put the type of the data. So your variable type again, just to remember, your variable type always depend on the type of your data. So if it's just a number, that's called integer type of number. So it could be 0 to 9 but its length could be, and also its length cannot be, it could be just from the 9 length. So this is a number, just a number, and it's so that's number. If its length is 9, the 9 digit 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, you can see there is a 9, the 9 digit. If the length of your number is up to 9 digit, then you can say, or just a 1 digit, or even 0 is a integer too, it's a number. So those are called integer number in programming language, or this is a same concept for across any programming language. So this is a integer, right? And that's why, since this data is integer type data, that's why you have to say int, it means integer. So your variable type is integer because your data is integer. Now next is, if you have a number but long number, like more than 9 digit, it could be 10, 50. If it's a more than 9 digit, it will consider as a long number. So that's why this data, if you have a long number and you want to save in a variable, say L, doesn't matter, any name you can give, that time you have to type that the type of your variable, which is long, you have to type the word is called long. And also if any data is a long data, you have to say also, you have to add L at the end of your number. This is the format. Okay, that's why I said a suffix l is must, otherwise compiler will treat as a error. Okay, now next come to the float type. The float type, it means you have a number with a dot with a short decimal number. So you have a number with a decimal like dot, like 234.34. That's called a float number, like short decimal number, not too long. So your decimal number, it could be after the dot, after the decimal could be just 234, not too long. That time it's called float. It's called the float. This type of data is called floating type of data. So and that time you have to add again f at the end. If it's a float, you have to also f at the end of the data. Then you put in equal sign, and then you put any variable name, whatever you give, say example a, and then you have to type the type of the data, which is float, and this is the reserved word. To understand the type, or type of the data is float, you have to, with the variable, you have to write the float, this keyword the same way, float, float. For integer, it's the shortest way. int, if you write int, that's fine. It will understand this is a type of integer data, or your variable is integer. And then now it's, if you have a decimal, if you have a long number after the decimal, like the previous one was short, that's called float. If it's a long number after the decimal, it's called the double. It's called a double. So whatever your number, it's like long number, then dot, then it's a long number after the decimal, it's called double. So you just write this number equal, and then you can put a, say, double, say d, d. Okay, d is a variable name, and its a type is double because your data is double type. And then character, if you have anything like any letter, any letter, especially any letter with a single quotation, you can see there is a single quotation. So J, A, B, C, D, whatever you say, only single character is allowed. It means there is a data type. When you are going to say character, it means you have a single letter with a single quotation. Between the single quotation, that time this data will consider as a character. So example J, so it could be B, it could be C, it could be whatever. Okay, this is a, and then you put in a variable, say C, and then your type would be character, since this is a single variable, a single quotation. So this character, this letter will consider as a character, and you have to type the return type of data is character. So it's a short form. You can write CHAR. Okay, you can say car. So that's the the type of the data is character. And a string, any word or even any single letter could be a string as soon as you put whatever the word or letter within a double quotation. If you put a double quotation, it will treat as a string, and then you put in a s in a variable, and then your return type is a string. You have to type a string. So anything, any number, so even you say 2, even you say number 2, but you put in a double quotation, this 2 that time will consider as a string. It will not consider anymore as a integer. Very interesting. Okay, so whatever you put inside a double quotation, it will treat as a string. If you say 2 double quotation, then you say integer here, it will say error. Your compiler will say this is not right, because you put a double quotation. As soon as you put double quotation, it will consider as a string, but you are saying return type is data type is integer. It's not integer anymore, so it is a string. Okay, so you say hello, or you just say H. This H not as a character because it puts in a double quotation. Okay, a word, you can put a whole word, hello world. Remember I said a hello world. Let's see, Here you see I put hello world, but I put in a double quotation. So this one is considered, this whole sentence is considered as a string. So when you write any sentence and you want to print it, or any word, anything, to print, this is the statement. To print anything, print it means you want to display in your console. So this is your syntax, system.out.println. When you type something, your compiler understand that you want to print. What do you want to print? Whatever you have after this. So if you want to print any statement or any sentence, it should be string type. Then if it's a string type, you have to put in a double quotation. You will understand later on more about it. Let's get to understand the basic things, the different type of data. It's hello world, okay, string. And then it's boolean. Boolean, it's like something you have it means if you have a data, it means just true or false. Nothing, it's just a true or false. You are saying something, it's true or false. To understand any type of data which is true or false, to means is true or false, that type, then you can say that type of data is boolean. You have to write this word boolean, and you have to put this one in a variable b, any variable. Only true or false is allowed. So boolean type of data, it means this data, it means either true or false. Okay, so this b, if you declare this one, it means if you call this b anywhere, it means b it's representing true value, just true. If you save as a false, a b everywhere, you are saying it's false. Is that clear now? Make sense? So those are the very basic type. Are you guys with me? Okay, those are the very basic type of data, different type of data type in Java or in programming language. It's not specifically Java, it's all language, it's the same thing. Like, those are the different type of data that is stored when you declare, and then you have to put in a variable, and your variable have to be there will have a return type, except Python language. You don't have to put the return type of your variable because it's automatically understand. That's a different thing, different language. But any object oriented language like C++ or Java or other languages, most of the object oriented languages that you have to use when you declare any variable, it should have come with a return type. You can't just say A, B, C, D variable, that's all. No, it's not gonna work. Okay, now it's a non-primitive data type. So those are the reserved. This is the reserved things, and there is no alternate. You have to understand and you have to use. This is set by the programming language. The type of when you declare any type of data like this, you have to say this is whatever the variable name you gave, this is up to you. But type of the data, it depends on the format of your data. So those are the primitive variable. And there is another type of variable or data, you can say it's non-primitive, or it's called reference type of data, and it's defined by the programmer. Those type of data or variables, it's defined by the programming language. You have nothing to change. You can't say, if you say, as I said, if you just put over here integer, if I say hello world within a double quotation, say put a variable name and then you say integer, it will give you error. It's not going to accept it because it's already fixed by the programming language. When you use a Java, Java will not take this hello world as an integer because this hello world is a string. So it's fixed by the program with the programming language. But non-primitive variable or data type, it's defined by the programmer. It's defined by you. Okay, we'll understand example. What is array class? Your class, those things, your class can be a data type. Your class can be a data type. So it really depends on a programmer to use some non-primitive data, as a data type. That's not, there is no limitation. Some of we'll understand later on. You can understand now it's array. Array is a different concept, or a little bit class. Example here I can say, let's see. So I said we can create a class. Say example, we create a class called say class T, okay, or class test. I give a name, class test, okay. Say public class test, okay. And here just assume that I create a class right here. So opening bracket, closing bracket. So test is my class name, and this is the class, right? And this is opening bracket, and this is the closing bracket of this class. So now I want to create an object of that class. So I don't have any specific object name, okay. I don't have any specific object name that inside this class. I just wanna make some object, one object that's going to be this by the same name of your class, the general object. Since object is a clone of your class, we know this, so we can make some general object. This object will be the clone of your test class. So if I want to make an object of the same by the same name of your class, what I have to do, you have to say, to create an object, we understand before here, to create an object you are going to use the keyword new, and then you give the same name of your class name. So where here I'm saying here I'm going to say new, and then what's the name of your class? Test, same name. To create an object you type like this. To create an object you have to put this first bracket, right? So when you create an object like this, and then you put, so when you create something, everything is object, right? Like this data is, everything is object except the class. Everything inside a class is object. So you create an object, you create a data, and then you have to put this one data in a variable, store in a variable, and then your variable return type. So similar over here, when you create an object, like test, you create an object of test class, is by the same name, is called test. With how I understand this is object, because I use a new keyword with the object. So this is a object, the test object of a test class. So when you create an object, you have to put this one in a variable. You have to store this one in a variable. So I give a variable, say t name or any name. There's no limitation what would be your variable name. It's up to you. And then when I declare a variable, what do we have learned over here? We have learned that when you put any variable, any object or data and assign to a variable, you must have to write the data type. You must have to write the data type. Those are the primitive variables. By the figure, by the seeing the variable over here, the data, by the seeing the data, we can easily understand what type of variable it's. But if you have a object, like this, like test, like object is called test, you don't understand, you don't know what type of variable, what type of data this, what type of object this is. That an integer, is that a boolean, is that a string? We don't know. This is very generic, we don't know. So when it's a generic, but when you have a variable, you have to put the return type. What would be your return type? That time it's better to put the same your class type. Your class is the type of your variable. So you create an object, generic object, the same name of your class, like test. Then when you declare a variable, when you declare an object, you have to put in a variable. But when you have a variable, you have to put a return type. So what would be the return type? Your return type would be the same by your class name. your class. So whatever your class, it's like if you create a class like addition, you give a name class addition, this will add two number. So you know this your class is addition type class. So but over here this class we don't know what type of class this class what type of things is going to do. We don't know. So that's why since it's unknown, so that's why we put the class name as a data type, as your variable type. Whatever is this class is going to be do, your return type would be, your variable would be the same type. That's why we put the your class name as your variable type or data type. Okay, so this is a whole thing. It's called creating an object by the generic object by the same name of your class. Okay, so this type, now here you can see, you can notice that your class, whatever your class was the name like test, your data type, like your variable type, your variable is t and its type is also same name. So your class can be a variable type also. It depends on when you create, when a programmer, when you create an object by the same name of your class, that time your variable type would be the same type of your same as your class name. So it really depends on a programmer. It's not the format, it's already given by the program, but it depends when you create that type of object. It really depends on you necessary. It depends on a programmer. That's why it's called your class. Your class can be a data type also, but is defined by the programmer. And that type of variable, this type of variable, it's called non-primitive variable. Is that a little bit clear? I know it's a little bit, maybe it's a little bit confusing, but would you be able to understand a little bit? This is the document, this is the node. You will understand more when you are going to do the real example. But I'm just this, yeah, you are going through you will going through this node again, and then I will try to save the video our class too. I'll share, go it again and again, then you will understand. Okay, so in this is the way. I didn't give you example by array because you don't know the array yet, or just I give you the class because you know the class a little bit. So your class can be a data type. What is the that time you can say your class can be a your variable type, and this type of variable is defined by the programmer. It depends on the programmer. So that's that type of variable or data type, you can say it's a non-primitive data type. Okay, so reference variables, the next reference variable are used to refer an object. It means when I create an object, example, here is again our class is called public class test, and then we have a main method. When just another thing to let you know, when you create a class, all of your object have to be between your class opening and closing bracket, right? Is closing bracket here, the last one, and inside this everything is object. So doesn't matter how many object you write. Object, it means there's a lot of things. Everything is called object inside this, between this. Another one mandatory things you have to be in your class, which is called the main. It's a, you can say name, or you can say it's a method or function. In different languages, different things. You can say function or your method. You need a main method or main function inside your class. Main is like, you can say it's a function. It means it's like a head. There will be a lot of method you can write, but everything have to be inside, like everything have to be part of class, and then inside a part of class you need a one must at least one method. It's called the main method. This is the format of your main method. Main method, it's called public. It have to be also public. And then static, you will understand later on. I will explain you what does it mean, the static. Then void, you will understand this part on later on too. And then name is main, and inside a main, you have to type something in a bracket. It's called string. Argument, args means argument, and then opening bracket and closing bracket. So all of your object have to be inside this main method. It have to be inside the main method. It could be outside of the main method, but have to be between your class. So main is like a head of your all the object. Say you have 100 object, 200 object, whatever you read, everything have to be inside the main method, part of the main method, because a main method is like your, if you consider your all the methods is like a body. So main method is like a head. So without a head you can't. Yes, everywhere. That's why when you create, I don't know you remember or not, when I created yesterday my first class, or the class on your system, when you create it, it's automatically give you option to create this main method automatically. Say I want to create. So we have 2 minutes. Let me see. I can I want to say example. I want to create a class just to show you. Okay, create a class. Okay, give a name. Say I'm going to say what's the name. I can't use the same name. Let's see, maybe a test example. I'll say test example example. You can say here which method steps would you like to create. Public static void main. So this option they give you automatically. So if you select it, you will see this method or this class will create test example class, and automatically it's already create the main method. Because when we run our file, when you run this program, you remember the compiler who execute your code first. Compiler always look for main method in your class, this main method, and then he's always look for main method. So he's come over here and he started to read your code inside the main method. So all of your function, all of your object have to be part of your main method. If you have a code outside of a main method and there is no link, sometimes your code could be outside of a main method, but it could be a link that you have something over here, then you have some of the part is outside of this code, that's fine. But if there is no link, that you have a code outside of this main method and it's not able to read, that line would not be considered to execute. So your compiler always first, when it's run this file, if I run it, it will always look for where is the main method. It will find here, and then it will go one by one line. It will read first line and it will translate it, convert to the the code. Remember this, it converted to the .class file, right? It will convert it, and then it will go to the next line, then it will go to the next line, then it will go to say, it will go do one by one. Okay, so that's the way. So okay, so as I was saying, like we need after a class we need a main method. So I will explain later on about the main method, but just for now remember that you will need always a main method inside your class. All of you, the code you want to translate, you want to part of the compilation. When the compiler run your code, you want to part of that code to read it and do something. You have to be mentioned, write this code between this main method. Okay, so assume that this is my main method now. Inside this is my test class, and I want to create an object of test class. So if I want to create a generic object of a test class, what I have to do, inside this main method, between opening and closing bracket. I write new keyword, and then this is my class, the object of the class name, the same, and then I put in a variable, and a return type would be same class name, right? So this is the this variable, this is the variable, right? This is the variable. It's holding this object, right? Let me copy this guy. I can just show a little bit more. And there, here, let me, I think I can clear all. I can ping it. I can't paste this. Okay, anyways, I can paste it. So here, so again, so this is the t is a variable, okay, and t is a variable. It's holding this object. It means what this this object is nothing. It's a clone of your test, this class, right? Right. So this t, this guy, it's pointing to this object. It means because this t is holding this object, right? So it means this t is pointing to the object, the test object, and test object is nothing, is the class, is test. So whatever you have inside this is test class. Maybe you have more other stuffs. Maybe you have more, you have more another method, another function over here. Say example, I'm just writing here inside the main method. Say you have this, so I'm going to type here. So let's put a type here. Say integer a. Okay, say you have a function, so I'm going to say public, giving a name public addition, public integer addition. I'm just giving another method name, okay, creating another method, and then I'm saying integer. I will explain you later on, integer b, and then this is another function or method, you can say, or you can say object, and then inside here I'm saying integer, say let's say a equals to 2 and then b equals to 3, and then I'm saying integer int z equals to a plus b, and then okay, so I create another method, okay, public integer, a method name I give addition, and its method return type, I have to put a return type. It's a return type. It means it depends on whatever your method or your function or this object does inside, whatever it's return, whatever is returned, the return depends on the return type. Your method return type would be exactly the same, like your variable. When you store any data to a variable, your variable type, it depends on the data type. Similarly, in method, in a programming language or function, or you can say this is an object too, the method, it does some specific job. That's why they create a method. So I create a method, it's called addition, and it means I want to add 2 number, and here and this method, when I declare a method, you have a method name, and method should have a return type, and this is a status of the method, like public, private. I will explain later on. Just right now understand this is a public, it means open, anybody can see this code. And in this method I have I declare 2 different variable. One is a, another b, and both of them it's have a integer. I'm saying a and b would be integer type of variable. It means whatever the data I'm going to store in this a and b is going to be integer. And this declaring 2 variable or any variable, number of variables in with a method between the bracket, it's called parameter. I will explain more, don't worry, I will explain more. Just for understanding this object, I'm explaining this. And then a, I said consider now inside the bracket for this method. This is a method's opening bracket and closing bracket, and everything is still is inside the main method. So I say a equals to 2, b equals to 3. I didn't put integer or over here because I already mentioned over here a is integer type, b is integer type. Now I declare another variable is called z, and then I put a and b plus a plus b, and then I put this a plus b equals to z. So a is 2, b is 3, it will be 5, and if 5 will be stored in z, and the return type would be integer because I know a and b will give me the integer value. So data type is 5 is integer, that's why I said z is integer. So if I say return z, it means I'm returning 5. So what is 5? 5 is integer. That's why whatever the return, the method will return something. The return type, whatever the return type, your method type also would be that same type. It have to be same type. So it's returning integer value. I'm putting, that's why integer here. So anyways, this addition, this method will return a addition value. So this is one method I have inside this main method. So this main method also the part of our test class. So when I create a object of a class, the test class, it means it's a clone. This object is nothing, it's a clone of this test class, right? I said it's a clone, right? The clone, it means, so if your test class have a lots of object, like one addition object, if there is, I create another object like subtraction or multiplication, right? Those are the different object or method. It's a part of our test class. Like in test class, I have lots of method. I create just one, I have a more. So in this, the object of the test class, since is the same, it's a clone of your class, so this object will have the same knowledge about all the method you have in test class, isn't it? Because your object is, this object is the clone of your class. So if your class have 100 method, 100 object, this object will have the knowledge of all the 100 objects, all the 100 method, because both are it's both the same. This object is nothing, it's making a clone from here. Are you able to follow me, guys? So this object now is since it's clone, so this object is also now holding in t. To t variable is pointing to this. T variable is pointing to this new test object, the test object, right? So t has the knowledge, all the information, all the code, all the variable, all the method you have in your test class, because t is pointing to this object, and this object is nothing, is a class. So in your class, whatever the code you have, all the object, all the different variables, these variables, or if you have a more, like these variables, the method or function you have, this is the part of this class, and this object is a clone of this, and this t is pointing to this object, new test object. So it means t have the knowledge, everything, all the object you have, all the methods, variable you have in this class, in test class. That's why this t, it's called a reference variable. It means this variable is referencing, it's getting the knowledge by referencing an object. The object is a clone of your class. Is that clear? So t has this t variable have the knowledge. T has the knowledge of your object, and object is nothing, is a clone of your test. And what's your class? Test class. Test classes means everything in your all the codes you have in your this class. So indirectly I can say t has the knowledge of your class. Everything it means all the variables, all the methods you have in this class. So that's why t, it's called reference variable too. Reference variable, why? Because t is getting the information by referencing this object. Okay, so when you create an object from a class, exactly from a class, and you put in a variable, this variable is also called a reference variable. Are you clear? Are you following me, guys? So this is the difference. Like when you create an object and you put this object in a variable, that variable is also called reference variable. This variable is not just a regular variable we put over here, like like character and then C. This is a variable. This is a variable, but this variable is only holding the value of B. But this is variable when you create an object and put in a variable, and this variable is holding an object. It means it has the knowledge everything about your class. So this variable is also called reference variable. Okay, so that's why its topic is called assigning object. I'm assigning this object to a reference variable. I'm putting a variable that's called the reference variable. So now the interesting part you will see, if I want, say I have like this code, right? And now if I want to call, say, out of this method is here. So it's every time if I want to, so this addition, this method will do some addition between 2 and 3, and then it will return the value is 5. So if I want to, so this will do the job. If I want to call or want to use this method like 5 times, like I need to add, say I need to add this, perform this addition method 5 times in the same class. What I'm going to do? Am I going to just copy the same like this, then 5 times? It will work if I just copy and write the same code 5 times. That it will do the same job 5 times. But this is not efficient way to do. Right? Writing the more line, it will slow your system, because your compiler will read this line, this line, and again the same thing it will do if you write over here. The compiler doesn't understand, it will just follow the line. But if you want to do the same job 5 times in the same class, that time people, they create an object of that class, and they use the object reference and call the method, the same method. Call the method, how many times or wherever they need to reuse the same things to do. What can I do? So that's why I created object of the new of the same class, and then I have an object reference. So I can say over here, assume that I need to use this method again. What I'm going to, instead of writing the same code again, I can just do the same job, same method, one line. I will use this T. I will use T, the object reference dot. Then as soon as I put the dot, it will show in my when I use the this Eclipse, it will show all the object, all the methods I have in this class, because T is pointing to this object, and this object is nothing, is class test. Indirectly, T has the knowledge of your test class. So in your test class, whatever the method, how many methods you have, including this one, it will show, it will have the knowledge in your T variable. So when I say T dot, and it will show everything, it will show in a drop down the all the method, all the function I have in this class, it will show. I will just select the addition one. I will just select T dot addition. Okay, T dot addition, this is the method, and I will put a colon. This one line will do the exactly this, will call, okay, T dot addition, it means this is the addition method. It will call this method over here and do the exactly the same job I write it over here. See, instead of writing 1 2 3 4 5 lines, it's done by one line. So every time you need to call this method, use this same method, you can use this object reference dot and the method name. This is the power of creating an object of a same class and put in a object reference variable. So that's the power of object reference. You see, so this will make your life easy, make your less code but doing the same same thing again and again and again. You can do over here, like you didn't put anything, the number, you just put integer a and b, you just declare a and b integer type, and you say a b, do the a and b, and then put in a z, and it's a return type is integer, and return this z. So this addition method will do integer, but you didn't give a name. So when you call this method using the object reference, inside this bracket you have to put the actual value. This is when you create a method and you declare some variable, that time you have to put the variable type, like what type of variable you are saying. This whole thing inside this inside this two bracket and putting the variable, list of the variable, is called parameter. And when you call the method, you have to pass actual. When you call this guy, it's a t dot this, you call this addition, this method, that time it will say, wait a minute, your compiler, my editor Eclipse will say you need to pass some actual value, because you have a two variable a and b, but you didn't assign the value. What would be the value? Then you say t comma 2 comma say 5. It also 2 will be replaced to a, 5 will be replaced to b, and then here 2 plus 5, so your z would be 7, it will return 7. So if you say this line will return 7, will have a 7, then if you say you can say system dot out dot println, because if you want to see the result you have to write system dot out dot println this command, and then you can put these things in a bracket. These things, it will print 7. This line will, you'll see in your compiler, it shows over here, over here it will show the 7. So similarly, if you want to add different number, all you have to do, you can just do the same thing, clone it, and just you change the value over here. Instead of 2, maybe you need 4, and you need a 6. It will you change the value, it will call this function again here, and then instead of a and b, it will change the value and it will do the job, and it will, for the system to print it, you have to write this number and write this code, system.out.println. This is the command to print anything. So what do you want to print? Whatever is inside. So what are you inside? You are calling the addition method. Addition method, how are you calling? By either using t reference. That's why you have to create the object of your same class and put in a variable with object reference variable. So you put this one and call this method and pass the value. The passing the actual value to a method or to a function is called argument. This value is called argument, and this is the when you declare it with a method is called parameter. Okay, I already give you a little bit depth inside the coding information. It was not my intention. My intention was why this called object reference. What is object reference? So I explain you, that's the called object reference. So when you create an object of a class and put in a variable, that variable is also called object reference. And why is object reference? Because this one is pointing to your object, and your object is nothing, is your class, same class. It means your variable have the knowledge about this class. Whatever you have, the class you have. So you can use this variable and call any one of the object. You can call any method, you can call any variable, whatever you need inside your class later on. You can just use this object and then put dot, then it will show all the list, all the object, all the method you have in this class, and you can call any one of them to use it wherever you need. Okay guys, is that clear? Make sense? I know it's especially who are new, it's a little bit feeling it's complex, but it's a very simple concept. Just go through the lecture one more time after we finish, and watch the video, and then it will be make it more clear when you will do the actual coding in our real life. Okay, so next topic. So I wanted to finish, yes, let's finish the lecture 1. Okay, well, we're almost done. Okay, next is there's a note. The main difference between primitive and reference type is that primitive it means all those data type is like integer, string, character, boolean, always have a value. Those things have always a value. Primitive types, those are the primitives, they always have some value. You have a variable and there is some always value. But it can never be null. Null, it means, there is a difference in computer language. Is null and zero. Zero is also value. It's a data. It's a meaningful data. Null, it's nothing. Okay, null, it doesn't mean it's zero. Null is nothing. Like you don't know exactly the value of a variable. That time you can say null. Null is it's empty. Null means empty, but it's not zero. Okay, so here we're saying your primitive type always have a value. It can never be null, but your reference type can be a null. Okay, your reference type of value can be a null, but primitive type is never be a null. It cannot be null. Primitive always will have some value. Those are always will have some value, even though you say integer I is 0, so but that's a value, but it's not null. It cannot be null. When you declare any primitive variable like integer, a character, boolean, you have to give some value. If you say nothing, say, I remember that I said over here in my other over here I say integer, I declare over here integer nothing, it means it will treat as a 0. If you say nothing, it means it will treat as a 0, not null. Okay, so your primitive variable cannot be a null, but your reference variable can be a null. Okay, so if you create a primitive variable of type integer, this is example, and you forgot to initialize that value, you forgot to initialize, either you forgot or you declare over here, as I said, it will be treated as a 0. So it will treat as a initial value is 0 by default. Okay, in Java, but a reference variable can be a null. When you declare a reference variable like this, like this reference variable, it could be null, because when you say create a reference object of a class and you put in a reference variable t, t has the knowledge of all those tests, but what this test have, until we call any specific object or reference or any specific method from this class, this t has a value is null. I mean, null is it means nothing. I mean, it can be change anything. Say example, you wanna write, you create a database for your website, but you don't know the value of a column. That time you put a value as a null. Okay, null, it means it can be replace anything. So I can call, when I call this variable, this method, I can pass this 2 5, I can pass again 4 6. So until I pass it, this method has a null value, because I didn't put anything over here, right? Actual value is not in this method, so it has a null value. It means it can be replaceable. But when you say 0 is actually value, it cannot be replaceable. Okay, so that's a little bit difference between null and actual value, and also in primitive variable and reference variable. So string, we just showed like a string. It's string is a data type, right, or variable type. Like we can say string could be here is string, it could be one word, could be 2 words, could be one whole sentence. As long as you put those things in between a double quotation, this data will consider as a string. So your variable type would be a string. Here I can do this way. I can add a concatenation. Concatenation is called concatenation. It means you are adding this, like you are adding between the word. So you say we plus this. Plus doesn't mean the addition of mathematical addition. This is not a mathematical addition. This is the adding. This 2 word will be add as a line. So this is called concatenation. Concatenation is just between the 2 word, 2 sentence you are adding. So if you say we plus are learning Java, okay, so and between everything is a double quotation, so it will and you put in a variable is called s, and it return to be string. It will be return we are learning Java, then you put a plus, and then you see there is a dot, the full stop I put in a double quotation. So this full stop also considered as a string. The whole thing is now is a string. You can write this way, or you can write we are learning Java, the whole thing in a 2 quotation, like we are learning Java, something like that. So if you put this one is double quotation, it's the same thing. This is the same thing. This thing and this thing is same thing. So this is not a 2 1, okay, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So you can use concatenation to add the same type of data. If you say here learn Java, just you put a character, this one, this not gonna work, because you are putting few things is a string, but another thing is a character. That's not gonna work, because at the end you are saying everything put in a s variable, and this variable is string. That's not gonna work, because you're putting a mix. So you have to make sure that all the data or variable values are the same type, and then you can use the concatenation. Okay, and one more thing is this. String is a data type. String is the only data type. String is the only variable type or data type in a programming language, like object-oriented programming language like a Java. It's also a class. It's also a built-in class. In a Java, it's every programming language, it has its own some library function. Library function, it means when you create a class. Remember the second video we ran, and then we said when you create a class and we write something and you execute it and it's return the result. The returning a result, this is not enough. Our code is not enough to interpret, to convert it to the byte code and understand everything that what we are want to do. Like we want to do some mathematics things, we want to display something. This code is not enough to understand by our machine. So it needs some supporting code. It needs some supporting language. The supporting language, it automatically comes from the Java. It has, when you download the Java, it comes with some library function, some library coding. Library, it means we know this library is a collection of book. In a language, every language, they have their own library. It's already built in. When you download the Java, install on your machine, those library also install on your machine as a supporting code, so that whatever we know how to write the code, if we and in terms of following rules and regulation, if we follow the rules and regulation as we know, we write something, then Java can, and when you run it, Java can easily understand that what we are trying to do. But if it needs some supporting code to do the job. Those supporting code, it's coming from the Java library. So Java library is a collection of class. Java library is a collection of classes. Nothing is collection of class. Some code already written by the Java programmer, like owner of the Java. They have their own Java developer. They write some built-in class, and those class have some lots of there is a main method, and there is a lots of function. It does some job to help our life easy, to do our job easily. Okay, so here I was talking about string. String is one of the Java built-in class. So string, this is the only exception data type in Java. The string is also a data type, like a string data type. Okay, when you have a string, you declare some data as a string with a double quotation, and then you put a variable. You assign this value to a variable, and you have to say string. So string is a variable type, or you can say data type. But string also a class, is a class, or a built-in class in Java, where it has some lots of method. It means, you can say function or method. It means in a class could be one method, could be a lot of, it's an object. Again, it's everything is object. Method is one type of object of a class. So method or function, a lot of people say method, or a lot of people say function. Both are same thing, meaning is same thing. Method or class in a method or object or function in a class is nothing. It just it's a piece of code. It's a piece of code do some specific job. Like I create a method over here. I just showed you addition is a method, okay, or function or as object. This method job to add two integer number and put in a z variable and return this variable, right? That's return to where. When you say return z, it means this will return the actual value to addition, this variable, this method. So this method will have the knowledge, return knowledge of the j, whatever the value. When you call this method, you just pass the variable. So method is nothing, is a piece of code for doing a specific job. Like if you want to do a large job, make it small and make it easy, and every small job you make a method. So method is nothing, it's just a piece of code and for doing a specific job. So in a string class, string, since it's a reserved class, that comes with the Java library, in Java, and in this string class there's a lots of method, built-in method already given by the Java programmer. So when you download the Java library, comes with the software like JDK, JRE, JVM. There is a library also comes with the Java, and in a library there's a lots of class. It's not only one class. There's a lots of class. One of the class is called string, and string, it has a lots of method for doing a lot of job. We'll see later on. Just for now, just understand string is also a reserved class that comes with the Java library, and that's and when I talk the class is nothing. It's a number of a combination of object. It could be a lot of variable, it could be a lot of methods or function. It's all together. So a string class have a lots of function, method, variable that it's already written. All we have to know, what method or function we are going to use, and we can call. We'll just we already seen over here that if we know a class and we can and if there is if we know the sum of the method in this class, we can use those class as long as that class is open, it's public. We create of that class object and use the object reference and call that specific method. Similarly, if the string is a reserved class, we don't have to know what's the code inside, and it has a lots of method. If we know any one of the method, like it's inside the string class and we can use it, we know the useful of that method, we can just create an object of that string class, like same new string, and then put in a variable. Return type is the same class name, and you use this s dot, it will show you all the method already written, already available, in Java. We can just call any one of them, which one is going to help us in our code. Okay, we'll see some of them. So just for now, remember, string is the only exceptional variable, data variable, which is also a class in Java. And the class, it means it's a reserved class. That's already code is written by the programmer. So, and it comes when we download the Java, it comes with that. Okay. And the last part is very simple. This is some Java operators. Operators means this is some sign we use in our code, right? So example, we use plus, just a plus. This is an operator. When you say plus, we use as an operator, it means it help you, it just help you to, with a concatenation, just to add something like this. This is plus, b. So it means, this will just add some string value. This plus will work as a concatenation, just adding. You are just adding something. Then subtract, it's just a subtract operator. Multiplication or division, all those are operator, different operator. And if we can use double plus is increment. If we say we are going to almost done, so you know what, let's do it, finish this part next class, because we have 1 minute, so it can be close anytime. So let's use finish that part in our next class. Okay, everyone, I will update the video in our Facebook page. I will let you know, or YouTube. So I will update everything in our after update, I will let you know through the Slack. Okay, please read the lecture note, please, and go through the the video once I finish the upload. Okay guys, okay, thank you so much.